Welcome to another episode of A Breath of Fresh Jacob, where finally, Molasses' question gets picked. Wow! And yes, that's how I'm starting this episode. So if you couldn't tell, today's question is brought to you by Madam Molasses, and asks, randomizers and crowd control, how'd they revitalize certain games? Yeah, I'm not 100, is that like, because you didn't put a question, is that a question? Because they did, so it's more like a statement. You may have broken the rules? I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, randomizers and crowd control, how they revitalize certain games. They did, but I need to approach these separately because they've done different things. Because crowd control is not something that the average player does. You need a community to do it with. So we're going to start with randomizers because that's something that everybody can approach, and we'll go from there. So randomizers, right? When I say randomizers in video games, most likely the first thing you guys are going to think of is Ocarina of Time. It is, without a doubt, the most popular randomizer, and for good reason. It's a fantastic game to randomize. People have been playing this game for decades, so there are people that are really good at it, people that have fond memories of it, people that speedrun it into the ground. It completely changes the game every time you play it, and I know that's the nature of a rando, but like more so than some other randos out there. Like, you may never go to this large place that you would be used to doing, or you may have to go to this place that you forgot even existed. Like, it feels so much more than most other randos. You know, there's actually a lot, like, a Wind Waker has a rando that's actually fantastic. I like it just as much as Ocarina of Time. Majora's Mask has a rando. I don't think it's quite as good because of the nature of the game. Any game where you have to do everything anyway isn't as good for randomization. So like with Majora's Mask, you're gonna have to do all 4 dungeons, beat all 4 major bosses before you can go fight Majora, right? Randomizing stuff is interesting there. Getting items in different orders changes what places you approach and in what order, but you still have to pretty much do everything as far as like the base stuff in the game. So it's a little less good for randomization, whereas something like Wind Waker is phenomenal for randomization because you have a 7x7 grid of different islands, and certain ones can be accessed with certain items. Some of them you don't need anything. Some of them in a normal playthrough you never even go to. A lot of the islands in that game are completely optional, which is why it's so good for a rando. There's a lot of stuff you can skip. Depending on the settings that you have, you don't even have to do dungeons, which is really interesting. On the other hand, you end up doing dungeons in different orders and stuff like that. It's all really good fun. If you haven't tried out either Ocarina of Time or Wind Waker, or even Majora's Mask, I mean, why not? It's still good. You should absolutely do that because they're a lot of fun, and I do highly recommend them. But to really answer your question, Molasses, what randomizers have done, they've taken a game that you may have played 6 or 7 times, and you're just like, okay, I've seen everything there is to see. I love this game, but I've experienced everything. It gets rid of that barrier. It's like, oh, you have you? But have you tried playing the game like this? And it completely changes everything for you, and every time you do it, it's different. That's why we're able to do one a month of Ocarina of Time and Wind Waker, because every time they're a little bit different, and it keeps them fun, it keeps them exciting, it keeps them engaging, and it makes them fun to play, which is really, really good, especially with games that are 20 plus years old that you've played a million times because they're some of your favorites. I mean, loads of people love Zelda stuff.
Don't let your kids watch it!
So, of course, those are going to be some of the most popular randomizers. Now, there are other randomizers, of course. Pokemon randomizers are tons of fun. DK64 has a randomizer, which works better than you'd think, actually. Especially with, like, the Tag Anywhere stuff. That, like, fixes the game. Oh, it makes that game so much more playable. I mean, not that it wasn't playable before. You know what I mean. There's randomizers for a lot of stuff that's kind of weird. Like, Mega Man has randomizers. Castlevania game. Honestly, any Metroidvania type games having randomizers is cool. Actually, Super Metroid and A Link to the Past having, like, that crossover rando is really, really fascinating. How you can keep, like, jumping between games, and some items from one game can be found in the other. That is so cool to me. Stuff like that is so, so fascinating because it breathes such new life into games that have just gotten old. When you play them for the 90th time, you know, it's not the same. Randos breathe life back into it. Now, to answer your other question about crowd control. So crowd control, for those of you that don't know what crowd control is a program, I'm going to use Twitch as an example, allows a Twitch chat to affect the game that you're playing in real time. So as an example, probably the most popular crowd control game is Super Mario 64. You could, while the streamer's playing the game, you could make them take damage. You could take away some of their stars. You could kill them. You can give them stars. You can light their butt on fire and see if it makes them run off a cliff. You can give them a metal wing cap just when they need it most. You know, you can help, you can hinder. There's a lot of really fascinating stuff that can be done with crowd control, but it is one of those experiences that you kind of have to do with a community. I think that it not only works well for the streamer because it's giving them a different way to experience a game they may have played many, many times, both on and off their channel. Because if you have a streamer that only plays Super Mario 64, it's going to get old after a while, you know? So giving them a way to make their content in that a little more exciting, awesome. Really, really good. I think it also helps the viewers because they get to experience the game in a different way. They're not just watching someone play the game. They're able to affect the game and see how that streamer responds to that change. And I think that that's really, really cool and really, really fascinating. I think crowd control is an excellent program. I look forward to seeing what more stuff they can come up with for it. There's already a lot of stuff on there. There's plenty of Mega Man games, plenty of Mario games, Super Mario RPG. I think OG Mario Bros. Is on there. Mario Bros. 2, Mario Bros. 3, I think they're all like on there. Banjo-Kazooie has an interesting one. Ocarina of Time has one. I'm on it. It doesn't do a lot for me. Wind Waker's is the same. It kind of has like a few here and there. Like Big Waves. Big Waves is awesome. Like as you're just coasting along, the waves get like giant and stuff. Oh, it's so much fun. It's goofy. It doesn't really do anything other than just like aesthetically mess with stuff. You know, it doesn't really put you in any danger or anything. It's just kind of cool. But crowd control is a really interesting concept, and I'd like to see what they do with it in the future because I really enjoy crowd control. But I feel like it needs to be done in moderation. Otherwise, you get burnt out on chat just fucking with you all the time. A really good question, but I think that's all I can really say about that for now. This is another one of those topics that I'd like to revisit one day once it's like even more well-known and even more broadly used. But yeah. Thank you for that question, Molasses. Appreciate it. Share it, like it.
Stick them in a stew.
Again, terrible with outros. One day I'll figure it out. I've been doing this for almost 6 years, and I still haven't, so don't hold your breath.
Breathe, darn you!
But that's it from me. But before I go, just remember, there I go, playing the star again. There I go. Turn the page. We'll see you next time.